How does a rancher keep track of his cattle? With a calculator. Hi everyone! Today I'm going to do a review over the book that is probably my favorite of 2015 so far. Get excited. This review is over the book An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. Oh my lordy goodness. Fellas. And I totally misplaced my review notes. So I'm doing this off the seat of my pants, and I have a lot to say. Let's just jump right on into it, because I am so excited to be reviewing this. Right now, just apology for these nails. I get bored in class, and this is the result. Anyway, so this book follows two characters. It's in split POV. The first character is Laia, who lives with her grandparents and her brother. One day, a group of military government people find out something that he's doing that's illegal, and they take him away. Laia sets off on this quest to have someone help her get her brother back, and the resistance of the city decides, we'll help you if you spy for us on Blackcliff. Switch to our second character, Elias, and he is a soldier at Blackcliff. He's what they call a mask, so he is the last grade in the training levels of this Blackcliff military camp. And he's about to graduate. He's one of their deadliest warriors. He's awesome. He's strong. But he wants to get out of Blackcliff, and he doesn't want to serve the Emperor because he thinks it's corrupt and he does not like it. So it begins where their stories kind of intertwine. Laia is trying to find her brother, and Elias is trying to find freedom. So I went into this rather blindly, but I came out of it completely in love. Here's why. First of all, this is the number one thing that I wrote down that I'm just gonna emphasize. I love the writing of this book. I have not read a book that's so beautifully written in a very long time. It's not just the characters are nice, it's that you get descriptions of things where you like stop and it becomes really creepily real in your mind because it's explained so vividly. Like, I wish I could just sit down to you and read the first page of this book because it is so descriptive and just gorgeously written. Like, if you have Amazon in your country, pause this video right now, go look it up on Amazon, read the preview, and then come back and look me in these two eyes right now and tell me this is not a beautifully written book, even just on page 1. The entire book is just done so well, and I think what makes that even better is that the structure of this book and the development of the plot and the characters, it's also done so well that it's so addicting. I know I've said the word so like 70 times, but this is honestly a book I could have read in one sitting, but I loved it so much I was forcing myself to take it in slowly. I think the world for this book is just extravagant. It's so neat. It is based off of ancient Rome, and I'll be first to admit I know nothing about that. It's been 2 years since I've taken world history. But I thought the entire ordeal about the masks and being in the desert was just so cool, man. Although I do think we lacked a little bit of a description about setting. I would have loved to see descriptions of Blackcliff, of the towns they went to. On the cover we get this beautiful depiction of the cliff that's referenced in Blackcliff, and it's such a beautiful cover. But we don't ever really see it written out in descriptions, so I wish that we could have gotten just a little bit more world building or more visual description of setting and character things. Even though we do get some of that and I loved it, I wish there was more. So I mentioned earlier how I loved the plot. I think it had a really steady pace to it, but my deal was there was a point toward maybe page 200 of the book where the novelty of it sort of wore off, and then I was left kind of lacking a little bit of excitement. I loved the world and I loved the characters in that world, so I was waiting for just action-packed and I was wanting to be so thrilled by it, and it was awesome. I liked the events that occurred, but I wasn't gripping onto every page like thinking it was such an action-packed book. It was just kind of cool, but it didn't strike me as this is the best book I've ever read. There's so much happening. It's not that sort of book, which there was a lot of potential for it to be. Also, one more issue I had with the plot was that there are some fantasy creatures introduced. They're kind of like night walker, spirit, ghostly, paranormal, supernatural type beings, and it's described like, oh, everyone thinks these are a myth, and it turns out they're not. But I really wish that we could have gotten some sort of world building or explanation about those beings, because the first time you hear about them is you're seeing them and you're like, what is this? What is that? And you're being told that they're bad, and it's just so much happening, and you don't get any explanation behind them, why they're there, and you do sort of get a story behind why the supernatural beings are there and where they're from, and you do get that history, but again, it's at the end. So I wish we could have gotten a little bit of a preface behind these magical creatures, because whenever they come into the story, they do appear a bit random. This is a thing that I've been talking to my friends about who have read this book, and I think it might just be a preference thing. This might bug some people, it might not bug other people, but there is a bit of a love box in this book, and I found it to be not really unnecessary, but kind of frustrating. I felt it was a little bit unnecessary. I liked those characters, but I don't like how so much romance was driven into those relationships, and I feel like a lot of it could have just been a friendship or a comradeship. It didn't make any of the characters weak, which I really applauded, because I would have been so sad if one character was deprived of all of their humanity just because they fell in love with someone. Once again, I thought it would have been pretty swag if it was just like, hey, you're a good friend. You too, buddy, and that was it, but of course we had to draw it out a little bit. But that's not to say that I didn't enjoy the relationship that formed between Laia and Elias. I think they're baes. I love the relationship. I just have this many complaints. This is a minor detail, and when I told my friend, she hadn't even noticed it, but there's a little bit of a thing where, since Laia is spying and she's posing as a slave, she's abused a little bit, and so Elias always finds her in these states of abuse, and so he's like, want me to carry you? And I swear, take a shot every time he says, want me to carry you, because it happens a lot, and I guess that's like a tiny thing I noticed, but it was a little bit frustrating that she's a very strong character. I love Laia. She's so sassy, she's so smart, but I didn't like how he kept going at her like, do you need me to carry you? Want me to be your prince in shiny armor? Literally, I have a shiny mask on. I could have done without, and I'm glad that she told him no, so I guess that makes it better, but small observation. While we're talking about Laia's character, I will mention one thing that I was kind of about. I noticed that she was a little bit gullible. She's working with the Resistance, obviously, to get her brother back, and I don't want to spoil it, but as soon as there starts to be rumors of things occurring between the Resistance and the Empire, she automatically assumes, oh, well, even though that's happening, they'll still help me get my brother. It gets very suspicious at some point, and she still goes on like, no, they're handling my brother, and she puts such trust in the Resistance that the reader is aware that should not be there, and the reader's questioning whether the Resistance has good intentions or not, and it was really grinding my gears to see her keep being like, no, they're nice people, they got him, when really, I'm sitting there like, get out of there! This book sets up to have a book after it, and I am ready, and I want it, and I am thirsting for that book, and until that day comes, I'm just gonna, I don't even know. Penguin, if you're watching this, I will give you my own, what is it, $19, I will give you $20 for a sequel. Let's be real. I think the end of this book was so action-packed. I was reading it during class. I would highly recommend this one. I liked it. Probably, I don't want to say more than Throne of Glass, but more than Throne of Glass. I know you've probably heard of this by now because BookTube is raving about it, so I would totally recommend you check this out, even if it's just from the library. Literally check it out. Best fantasy I've read all year. Penguin, give me a sequel! I really hope you go and check it out. It is totally worth it. If you do, tweet me, let me know. Until then, I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.